Namaste, and welcome to our continuing series on the life divine with our beloved Ranga. We are on chapter 11, the boundaries of the ignorance, and we are on page 576, beginning with the line, a superficial observation of our waking consciousness.
So, in the previous two paras, Srenda has told us that what we are conscious of normally is a very, very, very small amount only on the surface. We don't know what's below us, we don't know what's inside us, we don't know what is above us, we don't even know what's around us. So, this is what he has said. So, now we'll read the next third para, a superficial observation. A superficial observation of our waking consciousness shows us that a great part of our individual being and becoming, we are quite ignorant. It is to us the inconscient just as much as the life of the plant, the metal, the earth, the elements. But if we carry our knowledge farther, pushing psychological experiment and observation beyond their normal bounds, we find how vast is the sphere of this supposed inconscient or the subconscient in our total existence. The subconscient so seeming and so called by us because it's a concealed consciousness, and what a small and fragmentary portion of our being is covered by our waking self-awareness. We arrive at the knowledge that our waking mind and ego are only a superimposition upon a submerged, a subliminal self. For so, we have to read it like this. For so that self appears to us, or more accurately, an inner being with a much vaster capacity of experience. Our mind and ego are like the crown and dome of a temple jutting out from the waves, while the great body of the building is submerged under the surface of the waters. So the last is a very clear image.
Yes.
That we are like the iceberg. The iceberg, what we see, it may be huge, but it's only 1/10 of the whole mass. The rest of it is all submerged.
I would like you to just discuss a little bit the line, pushing psychological experiment and observation.
Yes, that's right. So, our normal experience is limited to the senses. And we see the physical world outside, and what the senses are telling us, we take them to be a reality. But there are subtle senses, and there are things which we can't see with our physical eyes. So, if you want to go beyond the physical, you have to experiment psychologically. Try to see that which the eyes do not see, that which the ears do not hear, that which the smell, not physical smell. Is there any other type of smell? So this is all what we have to see. So that's what he means by pushing psychological experiment and observation beyond their normal bounds. So, for instance, you can develop the capacity of seeing subtle auras. If you practice this by looking at in a semi-dark room, not a very lighted room, not absolutely dark, but just low lighting, if you see, and you have an object, let's say a flower, and you start looking at that flower, not with your eyes, but try to see if there's something around it. It is said that you can do that in about 3 to 4 months. You can develop the power of seeing auras. This is written by lady, her name is Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. Okay?
Yes.
They have done a lot of research in America, and she says that this power can be developed. I'll give you other examples. Okay? You can push beyond the physical senses. The phone rings. Without much thinking and without answering, just try to think who it could be.
It happens to me all the time, and I know who it is,
Yeah,
most often.
yeah. So that is one way. Or the other one, the bell rings and you want to know who is coming. Okay? Now, we very often know because we have appointments.
Of course.
So, but I am talking of something which is not an appointment. Out of the normal hours, somebody rings the bell and you want to know who it is. Okay? So, this is what is meant by going beyond your senses, the psychological bounds. Okay?
Thank you.
There are other things also. Okay? I'll give you very interesting things. Suppose somebody is going to say something. You look at him calmly, quietly, and try to anticipate what he is going to say. Okay? And sometimes it can be very surprising things. So this is what is meant by going beyond the senses. You can actually practice it, and you can develop these powers. It's possible.
Shall we move on?
Yeah. We have examples of Sri Aurobindo's this type of subtle senses. He says, in one place in the Record of Yoga, he says that in winter, at midnight, he could smell fresh bread being baked.
Fresh?
Bread. He could smell it. Now, in winter, all the doors and windows are closed because it's too cold. So you keep the cold out. So the smell can't come through the doors and windows. And it's midnight. At midnight, nobody is baking bread. And still he can smell it. So what has been done or what is going to be baked, he is getting the smell from before or after, whatever it be. So this is extrasensory perception. So what Shendra is saying, psychological experiment and observation, you could use the word extrasensory perception. Many people have it by a gift of nature. But in Life Divine, Sri Aurobindo says very clearly that it can be by regular discipline, you can develop these powers. Or nature has given to you as a gift. So this is possible. That's what meant by psychological, pushing psychological experiment and observation beyond the normal bounds of the senses. That's what
Thank you.
So, Sri said that we are conscious, in our waking consciousness, we are conscious of very little, only the surface. The rest of it is all below. I go to the next sentence, para.
Yes.
This concealed self and consciousness is our real or whole being, of which the outer is a part and a phenomenon, a selective formation for a surface use. Oh, just 1 minute. I wanted to see something there in the previous para, okay? The para we have just read. I want to just see, I'll read the para and then I'll tell you what I mean. A superficial observation of our waking consciousness shows us that a great part of our individual being and becoming. So I wanted to just make it clear. What is individual being? Your true being, your self or your psychic being, and the becoming is your body, mind, life. That's a becoming. the one that is in movement in the physical world. So just wanted to make that clear. Individual being, your true being, either the self or the psychic being also you could say. Okay? But actually individual being would be the self. And becoming is your body-mind life. Even our body-mind life, we know nothing about it. We don't know how our system works. Okay? So, I go now to the next para. Which we are. This concealed self and consciousness is our real or whole being, of which the outer is a part and a phenomenon, a selective formation for a surface use. Now, note the word is a part and a phenomenon. Phenomenon is something which has a beginning and an end. It's an event. So, the event belongs only to the physical world. In other words, that which is not a phenomenon, that which is static and permanent, we know nothing about it. And those are the subliminal and the spiritual planes of consciousness. We know nothing about them. We know only phenomenon. Okay. Phenomenon means all events in the physical world. A selective formation for our surface use. We perceive only a small number of the contacts of things which impinge upon us. The inner being perceives all that enters or touches us and our environment. What he means is, we perceive a small number of contacts of things which impinge upon us through the senses. What I see, what I hear, what I smell. But what I can't see with the eyes or hear with the ears is still coming into me. Thoughts from others are coming into me. Thoughts from emotions from others are coming into me. And I don't know that. A surface being is ignorant of it. But the inner being perceives all these things. That's what he's saying. Okay? The inner being perceives all that enters or touches us and our environment. Even the environment, that which is about to come. If you are very conscious, you can see, you can feel very clearly that a fever is coming or an illness is coming. When it enters your aura, if you are very subtly conscious, you can know that. So that's what he's saying, even the environment, we can become conscious.
I had that experience 2 weeks ago, that an illness was coming in. And I very quietly, I was in a dream state. And very, very quietly I said, Mother, this must not be. And it went.
That's right. Okay? So, we perceive only as part of the workings of our life and being. The inner being perceives so much that we might almost suppose that nothing escapes its view. Okay? That's interesting. We remember only a small selection from our perceptions, and of these even we keep a great part in a storeroom where we cannot always lay our hand upon what we need. The inner being retains everything that it has received and has it always ready to hand. Now that's very interesting, because even with our memory and all, I know I have read a passage somewhere, but I can't lay my hands on it because I don't know exactly where it is. Okay? So that's what he's saying. Whatever we experience, okay, I met a person 3 days ago, but I've forgotten his name, so I can't remember. So we can't use even what we have experienced through the senses, we can't use. But the inner being, not only it can lay its hands upon anything that you need immediately.
And it says that it has ever received.
Pardon?
That it has ever received.
That's right. That's right.
Everything that it has ever received.
Yeah, always, The inner being retains everything that is ever received and has it always ready to hand. We can form into coordinated understanding and knowledge only so much of our perceptions and memories as our trained intelligence and mental capacity can grasp in their sense and appreciate in their relations. This is a normal human being. The intelligence of the inner being needs no training, but preserves the accurate form and relations of all its perceptions and memories. And though this is a proposition which may be considered doubtful or difficult to conceive in its fullness, can grasp immediately, when it does not possess already, their significance. Okay? I'll read that sentence without the parenthetical phrase.
Okay.
Yeah. So, the intelligence of the inner being needs no training, but preserves the accurate form and relations of all its perceptions and memories, and can grasp immediately, when it does not possess already, their significance. So, whatever you have experienced in the past, you can easily get it if you are living in the inner being, not in the outer being. We are all living in the outer being. And you can also understand the significance, not only the event but even the significance. Okay? So, and its perceptions are not confined, as are ordinarily those of the waking mind, to the scanty gleanings of the physical senses. Okay? But extend far beyond and use, as telepathic phenomena of many kinds bear witness, a subtle sense, the limits of which are too wide to be easily fixed. Now, note that interesting word, to the scanty gleanings of the physical senses.
Yes.
The gleanings are, once you have harvested the grain, just a few grains are lying about on the floor and you just collect those. So it's not the real thing, but whatever is left a little bit, that's all our mind can, our senses can know. That's what he's saying. Okay? And he's saying, telepathic phenomena of many kinds bear witness. Yeah. I can look at you, and if I have the telepathic capacity, I know what you're thinking. Mother constantly is saying to people, when people ask her, Mother, I wrote a letter to you, but you did not reply, she says, I have already sent the reply to you. Not in writing, but through the ether. It comes through. Okay? And if you are perceptive, you will get the answer.
She wrote that to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To everybody. She has written to so many people.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have already replied to you.
Yes. In my case, she said, my answer to you was so positive, I thought I had written it.
That's right. For them it is so real.
Yes.
For us it is not real. Okay. So, the relations between the surface will or impulsion and the subliminal urge, mistakenly described as unconscious or subconscious, have not been properly studied except in regard to unusual and unorganized manifestations and to certain morbidly abnormal phenomena of the diseased human mind.
Oh.
Okay. So, we'll discuss this. But if we pursue our observation far enough, we shall find that the cognition and will or impulsive force of the inner being really stand behind the whole conscious becoming. The latter represents only that part of its secret endeavor and achievement which rises successfully to the surface of our life. To know our inner being is the first step towards a real self-knowledge. Okay? Now he is saying that I am not talking about this way to see what he is saying. The relation between the surface will or impulsion and the subliminal urge, mistakenly described as unconscious or subconscious, have not been properly studied, except in regard to unusual and unorganized manifestations and to certain morbidly abnormal phenomena of the diseased mind, human mind. So,
Freud.
Yeah. When you, a person has lost his mental balance, there is experimentation psychologically to try to find out what it is due to. Somebody is saying, I am not talking of those things. I am talking of a very healthy mind where it is there. So, and
But
in Life Divine, he has mentioned one place, sometimes people say things which they are seeing subtly, but the others don't understand and think that he is not normal.
Very strong statement, diseased human mind.
Yes. When you are abnormal and you say things, so there the psychological experimentation does take place. They want to find out why it's happening. But somebody is saying, I'm not talking of that. I'm talking of normal, healthy minds capable of seeing things, subtle things. Okay? So the latter represents only that part of the secret endeavor and achievement which rises successfully to the surface of our life. To know our inner being is the first step towards real self-knowledge. So either you must know the psychic or you must experience the self. That's the inner being. Then these powers automatically come to you. I mean, these things are so easy to understand that we don't need to discuss. If we undertake this self-discovery and enlarge our knowledge of the subliminal self, so conceiving it as to include in it our lower subconscious and upper superconscious ends, we shall discover that it is really this which provides the whole material of our apparent being, and that our perceptions, our memories, our effectuations of will and intelligence are only a selection from its perceptions, memories, activities and relations of will and intelligence. So, he is saying that what we are experiencing is only a small part of what the inner being is telling us. It comes to the surface, but actually it's the inner being which is telling you what to do, what not to do, and what you are. So, and that is a collection from all your past lives. Everything is collected and stored in the subliminal. So, superficial form. Our very ego is only a minor and superficial formulation of its self-consciousness and self-experience. It is, as it were, the urgent sea out of which the waves of our conscious becoming arise. Okay. So, but what are its limits? How far does it extend? What is its fundamental nature? So this is what he wants to know. Okay.
When we have a question mark after a word, and then Sri Aurobindo has a lowercase h, how far?
That is when the two questions are actually a single one. One is a corollary of the other one, then he makes it a part of the sentence, but to tell you that I am questioning it, he puts a question mark. Okay. He does that sometimes. Nobody else does it.
No.
That's part of his prose style.
Yes, yes. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so. And by the way, the word urgent, okay? Urgency. So, urgent usually means that which will not brook any delay. It has to be done immediately, okay? So, the urgency out of which the waves of our conscious being arise. Okay. But what are its limits? How far does this capacity extend? How far does it extend? What is its fundamental nature? All these questions, these two questions, are part of the limits. So, he is using it as one sentence. This nobody does, only he is doing it. Ordinarily, we speak of a subconscious existence and include in this term all that is not on the waking surface. But the whole or the greater part of the inner and subliminal or subliminal self can hardly be characterized by that epithet. What's the epithet? Subconscious. He says it is not at all subconscious. is very conscious. There is a subconscious and an inconscient, but the subliminal and even the superconscient is not available to us. So we call it subconscient, but it's not subconscient at all, it is superconscient. Okay, that's what he's saying. So, ordinarily we speak of a subconscious existence and include in this term all that is not on the surface, waking surface, but the whole or the greater part of the inner or subliminal self can hardly be characterized by that epithet. For when we say subconscious, we think readily of an obscure unconsciousness or half consciousness, or else a submerged consciousness below and in a way inferior to and less than our organized waking awareness, or at least less in possession of itself. Okay. So, but we find when we go within that somewhere in our subliminal part, though not coextensive with it, since it has also obscure and ignorant regions, there is a consciousness much wider, more conscious, more in possession of itself and things than that which wakes upon our surface and is the percipient of our daily hours. Okay? So he is saying that in the subliminal you are far, far more conscious. But that doesn't mean to say that the subliminal doesn't have some dark areas. There are some dark areas. But still, on the whole, it is much, much more conscious than your surface being. Okay? That is our inner being, and it is this which we must regard as our subliminal self and set apart the subconscious as an inferior, a lowest occult province of our nature. So, don't misuse the word subconscious, he is saying. The subconscious is really that which is below us, but that which is inside us is not subconscious, it is very conscious. That which is inner and above is not subconscious. That word should not be used. It's a wrong use of the word. Okay? In the same way, there is a superconscious part of our total existence in which there is what we discover to be our highest self. And this too we can set apart as a higher occult province of our nature. So, there is an inner subliminal nature, there is a superconscious nature, and there is also a that's my phone. So, and there is a subconscious part and an inconscient part. And it is this that we can set apart as a higher occult province of our nature. So, higher occult province, superconscious. The inner being is the subliminal, that also is part of you. And subconscious part of you, inconscient part of you. I'll read the summary of what he is saying here. The journey of self-discovery reveals to us that the subliminal self, which includes the subconscious below, the intraconscious inside, the superconscious above, is really what we truly are. That's what he's saying. Not our body-mind life. Body-mind life is only surface. Today it is there, tomorrow it will disappear. The outer body-mind life is only a small part visible to our physical senses of this vast subliminal being. It's only a small part. Our body-mind life is only a small part of our subliminal being. It is the infinite sea that throws up small waves and ripples on our surface existence. That's a vast sea, and our body-mind life is only small ripples. Okay? But how big is the subliminal being? What is its fundamental nature? That is what he wants to know. Okay, so now, remember the chapter is the boundaries of the ignorance. So
Yes.
he's trying to find out
Yes.
what are the areas which are knowledge and what is.
We could do one more paragraph.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Yes.
So, now he wants to discuss the subliminal. But what then is the subconscious and where does it begin, and how is it related to our surface being or to the subliminal, of which it would seem more properly to be a province? What is subliminal? He is asking. We are aware of our body and know that we have a physical existence. Even very largely identify ourselves with it. And yet most of its operations are really subconscious to our mental being. Not only does the mind take no part in them, but as we suppose, our most physical being has no awareness of its own hidden operations or by itself of its own existence. It knows or rather feels only so much of itself as is enlightened by mind sense and observable by intelligence. We are aware of a vitality working in this bodily form and structure as in the plant or lower animal, a vital existence which is also for the most part subconscious to us, for we only observe some of its movements and reactions. We are partly aware of its operations, but not by any means of all or most of them, and rather of those which are abnormal than those which are normal. Its wants impress themselves more forcibly upon us than its satisfactions, its diseases and disorders than its health and its regular rhythm. Its death is more poignant to us than its life is vivid. Its death is more poignant to us than its life is vivid. We know as much of it as we can consciously observe and use, or as much as forces itself upon us by pain and pleasure and other sensations, or as a cause of nervous or physical reaction and disturbance, but no more. Accordingly, we suppose that this vital physical part of us also is not conscious of our operations, or has only a suppressed consciousness or no consciousness like the plant, or an inchoate consciousness like the incipient animal. It becomes conscious only so far as it is enlightened by mind and observable by intelligence. This is a para that we have to see. What I'll do, I'll read the summary of it, and then we will see what he means by we are not conscious of even our body.
Okay.
So the body is very conscious, but we don't know that. We think it is unconscious. So the summary goes like this. We must now ask ourselves, what is the subconscious in us? How is it related to our surface nature? How is it connected to the subliminal, of which it seems to be a part? We are conscious of our body, and we even identify ourselves with it. We are not at all aware how it functions. How does the heart work? How does the kidneys? How the brain? What does the liver do? We know none of these things. These are hidden operations. We know of them only as far as our mind tells us. So, this is what he is saying. Now, how can we say that the body is not conscious? Just look one by one at the functions in the body. Look at the only 2-3 things we will discuss. One, the kidneys. The kidneys are actually removing all the poisons in the body and throwing it out through the bladder, okay, and it is purifying the blood. It is conscious. How can it do that without consciousness? Okay, so let us think of the heart. Okay, if there is a blockage, then nature provides for other routes by itself. All these type of things happen. Okay, or let us also see how the main pituitary gland and the other glands in the brain, which control the chemistry of the body. Okay, they can't. The sugar level must not go up. The salt level must not go up. There is full control. And we think the body is unconscious. Not in the least. It is very, very conscious, but not mentally conscious. It is physically conscious at that level. And simply saying we don't know any of these things, we don't know. That's what he's saying. How little we know of ourselves.
Yes.
And nowadays, many doctors admit that their knowledge of the body is very little.
Yeah, or the specialists. The specialists say, I only know about this small part of the body.
Absolutely.
The heart.
Yes.
I don't know about anything else.
That's right. George Bernard Shaw had a very interesting to say about that. He says, a specialist is one who knows more and more about less and less until finally you know everything about nothing.
Very good, very good.
So, I suggest that we look at this paragraph that we read just now a little more in detail. Okay? But what then is the subconscious, and where does it begin, and how is it related to our surface being? Which is the surface being? The body, mind, life. Or to the subliminal, of which it would seem more properly to be a province. So, the subliminal is inside, but what is inside can also be down a little bit. So, the whole inner being is down, it sweeps inside and then goes up. So, this whole range is the inner being. So, the inner being, the subconscious is a part of the inner being. That's what he's saying. Okay, so we are aware of our body and know that we have a physical existence. Okay, even very largely identify ourselves with it, and yet most of its operations are really subconscious or to our mental being. Okay, subconscious or mental being. For instance, when you are digesting, okay, what is the stomach doing? The stomach is digesting the food that you have eaten. And if you have eaten meat, the stomach is digesting it. But this stomach itself is meat. Why does it not digest itself? That is because there is a line and a coating that comes and protects the stomach from doing that. So that's consciousness. So there's so much of the biological functions that happen in the body that show clearly that it is all, there is a consciousness but not mental consciousness. It's a consciousness which is acting at a fairly low level. So that's what is meaning. Okay, so are really subconscious or mental being. Not only does the mind take no part in them, but as we suppose, our most physical being has no awareness of its own hidden operations or by itself of its own existence. It knows or rather feels only so much of itself as is enlightened by mind sense and observable by intelligence. We are aware only of our mental awareness. Okay? We are aware of a vitality working in this body form and structure as in the plant and lower animal. Okay? Exactly how it is working in the lower animal or in the plant, that same force is working also in us. A vital existence which is also for the most part subconscious to us. The vital forces are all, we are subconscious, we are not conscious at all of it. For we observe only some of its movements and reactions. We are partly aware of its operations, but not by any means all or most of them. So that's what all, even the doctors who know so much, they are only partly they know, they don't know everything. And they very openly sometimes acknowledge that we know very little about the body is, as you said yourself just now. Okay? We are partly aware of its operations, but not by any means of all or most of them, or rather of those which are abnormal than those which are normal. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So our normal functioning, there is so much of intelligence, but we are not conscious of it. We take it for granted. But when there is something abnormal, illness comes in, then we become conscious that, oh, this is not working. That's what he's saying. So we are more conscious of the abnormal than the normal. So its wants impress upon themselves, it wants impress themselves more forcibly upon us than its satisfactions, its diseases and disorders. When you have eaten and you are satisfied with what you have eaten, you don't worry about it. But if there is a digestive problem, you have an indigestion, then you are conscious. So that's what he's saying. More forcibly upon us than its satisfaction, its diseases and disorders than its health and its regular rhythm. Its death is more poignant to us than its life is vivid. Okay? So we know as much of it as we can consciously observe and use, or as much as forces itself upon us by pain and pleasure and other sensations, or as a cause of nervous or physical reaction and disturbance, but no more. Accordingly, we suppose that this vital physical part of us also is not conscious of its operations, or has only a suppressed consciousness, or no consciousness like the plant, or an inchoate consciousness. Inchoate is that which is just beginning. It has nothing to do with chaos or anything. So, like the incipient animal, it becomes conscious only so far as it is enlightened by mind and observable by intelligence. But we are not conscious at all of our vitality and our body. But there is a lot of things there which is conscious. He is pointing out clearly how little we know of even ourselves, and of the cosmos even less, and of the superconscient hardly anything at all.
Namaste, and thank you for attending. We are continuing the boundaries of the ignorance, and we will begin on page 579 on Monday. Thank you, Ranga.